What is up, guys? Welcome to this special episode of Guarani Vision, the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me tonight are my two great co-hosts, Ralph, Hannah, and Maria Britos. And today, we are going to highlight the World Cup qualifiers with Paraguay having to play 3 games in September, and one of them opponents is going to be Colombia. And to help us outview Colombia and talk about them is our great friend, Ronald Peña from Parceros United, to assess how the Cafeteros view this matchup, a very important matchup now, nearly halfway from the World Cup qualifiers. But let me get my two great co-hosts in here first because, guys, and Maria, I'll go to you first on this one. It's heating up. I mean, it's incredible that we're literally, it felt like the Copa America was just yesterday, and here we are a couple weeks away, and we're about to probably be halfway done with the World Cup qualifiers. How are you?
Hey guys, hey Ronald and Ralph and Roberto. Thanks for joining us, Ronald. And yeah, we're super excited, I think, for the qualifiers. At least I am, because we're one step closer to hopefully making it into the World Cup next year. It's next year already. I remember thinking last World Cup, it's going to be in Qatar 2022, and now we're about a year away so far. So I'm excited. I hope that Paraguay gets to play well, and the next few competitions, the next few teams that are going to play against Paraguay are extremely good opponents, and I'm just hoping that they'll make a good performance for Paraguay.
15 months to be exact, but who's counting, Maria? Let's go to Ralph here on this one. Obviously, this opponent in terms of Colombia has gotten our number in the last few years, but they do make for entertaining games, and they do. There is that kind of respect, you would say, for Paraguay towards Colombia, not just in recent years when they obviously made it to the last 2 World Cups, but also previous years when their golden generation happened, even those years when they didn't make the World Cup, they were still a formidable opponent, no matter what ground that they play in.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, historically, Paraguay used to get the better of Colombia. I remember, I think, Jose Luis Chilavert scored one of his World Cup qualifier goals was actually against them in the 80s, maybe in 89 or something. But more recently, as Paraguay has stopped going to World Cups, it's Colombia that's kind of taken their place, right? So Colombia is experiencing what we all remembered back in, 2006, 2010. But we're going into this game, it's pretty close. Well, before we go into this triple header, Colombia is just 1 point ahead of Paraguay. These 3 games are huge for those teams that are looking for anything other than kind of Argentina, Brazil, who seem pretty safe. I think, these 3 games are going to define it. So getting very excited. And like Maria says, it's like, 1 minute you're watching Copa America, or you're thinking about even Russia 2018, and now all of a sudden it's all upon us. So not long to go.
Not long to go at all. And let's get our great guest in here, Ronald Peña. How are you? And, I do have to ask, maybe for those that don't know you or perhaps don't follow Parceros United, just, talk a little bit about yourself. Talk about your connection to Colombia, obviously your passion for football and all that kind of stuff. Just go right ahead, man.
Parceros, what's going on? Very glad to finally be invited on here. What you guys do is super important. You guys do an amazing job covering Paraguayan football, and more so when it's a national team. Having this English connection to your roots is very important as a dual national. You feel something for your roots that you don't feel necessarily for your other team, your other nation, and just very happy. I come from Parceros United. This a lifestyle brand, promoting unity and diversity through Latin culture and the beautiful game. We do a lot of memes and a lot of soccer talking, so it's always a good time on there. If you guys want to follow on everything, all our socials are Parceros United.
Make sure to obviously smash that follow button in all social medias. But let's go jump into this discussion and obviously talk about, Colombia as a whole, and go to you on this one first, Ron, because as we speak right now, obviously just a couple of weeks away from the start of World Cup qualifying, Colombia are in a spot, like Ralph said, right in the World Cup qualifier spots. They're in the final spot in 5th place in the interconfederation playoff spots. And they've had quite a tricky ride, you would say, over the last year or so. They've had Carlos Queiroz start at the helm of Colombia, obviously ended up getting sacked before being replaced by Reinaldo Rueda, heading into the Copa America. And, obviously they finished in their third. It took a penalty shootout loss to Argentina to deny them that spot in the final. But I wanted to ask you more, what is the perception of, obviously now viewing Colombia under Rueda, viewing that entire Copa America, where it was a really interesting format and kind of favored Colombia in a way, and now just after assessing the players that we've seen, the drama that I think we've also seen that we'll talk in a bit, what is the overview for you and for many Colombians now heading into these crucial World Cup qualifiers?
Yeah, I think with Reinaldo Rueda, I think he really revived the Colombian feeling we have of garra and seeing out results. I believe that no one really expected a 3rd place finish in the Copa America, especially after the disastrous qualifiers we had against Ecuador and Uruguay. But alas, Reinaldo started working. He did a little bit of rotating in the Copa America. Brought some new faces in, experimented a little bit. In the end, we got a 3rd place finish. I think it was a really good result that favored Colombia, and we were, like you said, we were a penalty shootout away from facing Brazil in the final, which, anything can happen in the final. But of course, we beat Peru as well. And I think in the games that Colombia played their first team, I think Colombia pretty much dominated those games. Against Peru, we saw a complete domination in all assets of the game. Luis Diaz doing his thing, a lot of these new faces, like I said, Luis Diaz, 4 goals in 4 games in this Copa America. I think he's going to be a very crucial, integral piece for Reinaldo Rueda moving forward into these qualifiers.
I was going to ask, Ronald, do you feel this? You mentioned, there's some changes and revival, but there's still kind of a core team that we also saw losing the game 6-1 to Ecuador or 3-0 to Uruguay in the World Cup qualifiers in the run-up. So do you feel it's more that Rueda's changed tactics, or it's just that kind of confidence boost and maybe they just needed this kind of break and reset button?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. Really, I think Queiroz, during his tenure, he started off pretty well, but in those last 2 World Cup qualifying matches that he had, it was disastrous. And really, I think it was because, one, he overcomplicated the tactics on the field. There are players that really didn't understand or were put in uncomfortable positions that don't favor them. And he also lost the locker room. There were talks and rumors about James Rodriguez getting fights with Wilmar Barrios and Davison Sanchez. But once Reinaldo came in, he alienated James Rodriguez, and, he got the locker room in order. He got them united as a group. And I think that is a combination between tactics and really, the behind the scenes that really revived this Colombia national team.
Ronald, you mentioned James Rodriguez, and is actually someone that I wanted to talk to you about. Excuse me. And earlier, before we started recording, you were telling us about his Twitch and how he's going out into the social media world and speaking out about his situation with Colombia. It's been obviously drama-filled for him and for Colombia. How do you see this coming in the next few matches for Colombia? Do you see him coming in? Do you see the relationship with him and Rueda working out, and maybe the teammates as well?
Yeah, I think the relationship between Rueda and James is very complicated. I think James is not in the right mental state to be playing right now for the national team, even though every time he puts on that 10, he's like Superman out there. But I don't think he's in the right state. I mean, on the Twitch streams, he's saying he doesn't even know when Everton's playing. He's asking the chat, hey, who are we playing this weekend? No, man, like, you got to be, you got to have some focus, got to have some goals. I think there's no one really to replace the production or the effect James has on the field. I think Edwin Cardona and Quintero are the only other 2 creative midfielders Colombia has. Edwin doesn't last more than 45 minutes, and Quintero, his situation is complicated because of the COVID protocols in China, not letting him leave the country. But we saw Reinaldo called up Quintero for the Copa America, but he was not able to leave the country, like I said. So it does mean that Reinaldo favors Quintero, likes him. I think we might see him for these upcoming qualifiers because now he's training in Colombia. He's on vacation, training with Medellin. So we might see Quintero step in and take that place of James that we so much miss, because we missed him. We missed the type of player James is. He shows up in big games. He's that leader, that go-to guy. You see players look up and where's James? Where's James? We didn't really have that in Copa America. I guess Luis Diaz towards the end, but James brings to something different. We really missed that against Argentina and against Uruguay.
So I think now, obviously, excluding what's going on with James, I think, and you had mentioned it there, Ron, I think the player that you have to really focus on and not really center your entire team about, but certainly one to be as influential is Luis Diaz. And especially after the Copa America that he's had, scoring against Peru, scoring against Brazil, and scoring against Argentina, a fantastic tournament. And this is obviously to top off what he's been doing at Porto as well. How do you see his position be redefined heading into these qualifiers? And do you feel that, now after what we saw from him in the Copa, is that, probably everything will have to revolve around him in terms of getting that deadly attack onto goal for not just the game against Paraguay, but obviously the more games that happen in September?
Yeah, for sure. I think Luis Diaz really took over that spot of being that go-to guy people or players look for. I think there are a lot of similarities between James in 2014 and Luis Diaz in this last Copa America. Yeah, he's definitely going to be that go-to guy that everyone's going to look for. I mean, he has so many tools in the arsenal. He has that ability to combine one tiki-taka with other Colombians, and he has the ability to take on players. So I feel like, yeah, he's definitely that go-to guy. But what I also feel is that Paraguay is missing a real defensive midfielder, a central midfielder. And I think that's going to be a pivotal for Mateus Uribe and Wilmar Barrios to exploit that area. Because what I watched from Paraguay is that, a lot of the chances that they conceded were from that area, that kind of central defensive midfield area. I think those players will exploit that area. Maybe we see Luis Diaz cutting into that area like he did against Argentina. But yeah, like you said, Luis Diaz is definitely that guy that Colombia, kind of look towards at this moment.
Looking at the game from a Colombian perspective, I'd be interested in how does Colombia really kind of see this rivalry with Paraguay? Because from the Paraguayan side of things, their traditional rivals have always been the three kind of Southern Cone powers, so Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay, who have been the three countries that they used to historically play with most. Interestingly, I've always seen that Paraguay and Colombia, at least from the Paraguayan side, has always been quite friendly. This even goes back to things like the War of the Triple Alliance, and I think some treaties and things that were signed. And not being a neighboring country, maybe you don't have and you don't have a big Colombian population in Paraguay, and there's not really a big Paraguayan population in Colombia. So I've always seen it as quite more friendly. But I'd be interested to know if Colombia have seen something different, being that Paraguay was kind of getting into those World Cups ahead of them for a recent period.
No, like you said, the traditional powers in South America are Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. And besides that, I mean, you have respect, or each country has a certain respect, or maybe not Peru and Chile, but besides that, I think every country has a certain respect outside of those three powers. Yeah, like you said, they've been wars, or they've been the games themselves have been battles. There haven't been many draws. Either Paraguay wins or Colombia wins. The most recent example was in 2016, where we won 1-0 with an Edwin Cardona stoppage time goal in Paraguay. And then about a year later, you guys won 2-1 in Barranquilla. One goal in the 89th, another one in stoppage time. So, and there hasn't been a draw. I looked this up. There hasn't been a draw between Colombia and Paraguay in Paraguay since 1993. So I think there will be a winner between these two sides, and Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because Colombia has very interesting players, as does Paraguay. I think there's going to be a big battle in set pieces, because set pieces is something Paraguay excels in. You know, they have tall central defenders in Sicario Rojas and Hector David Martinez, who I love. Who there aren't many center backs, good left-footed center backs out there in the world, and Hector Martinez is one of them. And then you have, of course, Gomez, who's also good in that position and good at set pieces. And then on the other side, you have Jerry Mina, Davinson, and set piece specialists on both sides: Almiron, Romero, Cardona, James if he plays, Quintero. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I don't think it's going to be anything one team dominates or the other one does. I think it's going to be very close, because all the games have been either 1-0 or 2-1 wins for your side. The difference has been
I do have an interesting stat, actually. I was looking this up. In fact, when you look at home and away, 5 wins, 5 losses, and 2 draws for both sides. And, relatively speaking, guys, at least in recent period, even though Colombia has beaten Paraguay a lot at home, Paraguay have also gotten the upper hand of beating Colombia at their home. So, yeah, I agree, Ron. I think there is that kind of mutual respect. But, at least from my recent memory, maybe aside from the odd games, at least in the current format of teams, at least in the current setup of both these two teams, they've always been close battles, both home and away.
Ronald, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the fans, the Colombian fans, and how you guys see Colombia going into the World Cup. They got to 3rd place in this Copa America, so you guys had, some enjoyment out of this. You guys were able to see a lot of good games out of this Copa America, but World Cup qualifiers is a whole new deal. How do you guys feel? Do you guys have hope that they'll eventually make it to Qatar?
Yeah, I think this is Colombia's second golden generation. I think that definitely, I think the goal is to get to Qatar. And even though we had those 2 disastrous fechas, so those matchups between Uruguay and Ecuador, I think Colombia definitely needs to win away to Paraguay. I think they're going to go for the win. It's going to be complicated, but if they want to make the World Cup, I think they definitely gotta win this match, or win away at least. This team has said that they want to win something. They want to lift a trophy with the national team, and they have the tools to do so. It's just seeing out these results, whether that be a World Cup, whether that be a Copa America or whatever. I think this team definitely wants to lift the trophy, and they got to start winning, showing their garra away, not only just winning at home, because South American qualifiers are complicated. This team also plays in La Paz 3 days prior to going to Paraguay, so it's going to be interesting what rotations Reinaldo Rueda makes in for Paraguay, because playing in La Paz is nothing easy. There's a lot of desgaste, there's a lot of tiredness from the players, because of the altitude, and so we'll see what rotations Reinaldo does for this match.
Now, Ron, I know we're going to close it out here, but I do need to get your prediction. I know it's super early. Obviously, many things can happen within the next few weeks, but we've been asking all of our guests on this. How do you see Colombia getting this this matchup? How do you assess it, and what would Colombia need to do in order to get that win, just in case that they don't, obviously?
Right. Yeah, I have 3 main points. I think one I just discussed, that was the set pieces. Like I said, there's set piece specialists on both teams. Colombia needs to watch out for those tall center backs that I mentioned prior. Luis Diaz is another key. Always him being that go-to guys Colombians look for, or when they're down or when they need something. Luis Diaz is that type of player with one gambetta, with a take on, he changes the whole game. So he's going to be important. And Mateus Uribe and Wilmer Barrios is my 3rd point. That pairing in central midfield, I think them moving forward, I think there's a little there's some empty space that Uruguay, that's in that central midfield, that Wilmer Barrios and Mateus Uribe or Gustavo Cuellar, if he plays, can exploit and create chances from that area. So I think those are the three main points. I'm hoping for a 1-0 win away. I think Luis Diaz is going to get that goal, continue his World Cup form, or not World Cup, Copa America form.
Absolutely. We'll definitely have to wait and see. Obviously, wait until these games happen. Obviously, call-ups and all the type of team news that are going on. Before we let you go, Ron, and thank you again for coming on, where can everyone find your work? Go ahead and boost your socials as well.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. Really love discussing the national team. Yeah, you guys can follow me on Parceros United on all platforms, or Ronald Peña, Ronald Pen _A on Twitter or Instagram. Wherever you want to follow me, you can find me. And I just thank you so much for having me on, Maria, Ralph, and Roberto. Really love what you guys do. Like I said, connecting those English speakers to the roots is super important. So just continue what you guys do. Really love it.
Appreciate the support, Ron. So thank you again for everyone from tuning in to this outlook towards Colombia from a Paraguayan perspective into the World Cup qualifiers. For myself, Roberto Rojas, for Ralph Hanna, and for Maria Britos, thank you so much for listening in. See you soon.